Butch, Davis, and Angel are teenagers who have been sentenced to Enola Vale Juvenile Detention Center in Montana. They have been asked to be in their birth suits, or rather stand before the officers without clothes. Then bend and cough hard while the officers watch their shitbox. This is to ensure they are not hiding anything while going in. Davis is a 16-year-old, arrested for drug possession, whereas 15-year-old Angel is convicted of assault and auto theft. Likewise, a 17-year-old Butch is transferred from another institution, after assaulting a correctional officer. Before we get further into the plot, if you are new to Scenes Recap, please hit subscribe and the bell to never miss any of our movie uploads. Also, like this video if the movie plot will interest you. In the correctional facility, after a thorough check and handing over of their personal belongings, the teenagers are provided with their prison uniform by the prison staff. Meantime, Sands the superintendent briefs the new inmates. He touched on the regulations of the facility including the safety protocols present there, then placed them under the authority of the unit supervisor, Goodyear, who has a reputation for being strict but still empathetic. Goodyear leads the boys to their dormitory and assigns them their beds. He then explains to them the types and levels of the juvenile inmates, concerning the uniform they wear. He mentions that the color and type of their uniform can identify their levels. Every single inmate starts with level 1, based on the examination of their behavior. During their stay, their level can be changed. If they show some progress, they will get to the next level. He adds that the higher levels have some privileges, and are often regarded as trustees in the institution. Now the inmates in level 2 are in black pants and polo shirts. However, the inmates have poor performance or are engaged in anything harmful. They will stand out from the group with their orange uniforms, and will often make visits to a special unit. In the next set, we see Butch heading to be served his meal, but it does not end well for him. Banks, the most feared inmate, put the hot food on his thumb right from their first meeting. Banks is hostile towards Butch for some reason. Maybe he wants to show him he is the big daddy. Butch befriends Max, a funny, sharp free spirit whose attitude endlessly provokes the authorities. The boys' first day and the night ended quite well and without much hassle. The next morning, Goodyear comes to wake them all. Their second day starts with mopping the prison floor. Soon Banks and his bully crew, Looney and Eckersley, come to bully Davis since they seem to be the powerful guys there. First, they ask him about his shoe size and order him to remove his new boots, where Banks exchanges them for his old boots. After that, they came to where Butch is doing his task of mopping the floor. They then spit on him before spitting countless times on the floor parts he was done mopping. The act angers him, but since he wants to leave the place, he lets it slide. That night, unlike the other one, they could not let Butch have a peaceful night. Bank, Eckersley and Looney come to him, and cover his mouth, then land a few hard blows on him. The next morning, as usual, the officers are there to inspect the room, but Angel disregards the officers' orders and eventually, he ends up being detained in solitary confinement. Similarly, Butch with his black eye, does not go unseen. Goodyear asks him what happened to his eye, and he lies by saying he slipped and fell during the night. Goodyear doesn't believe him, and since Butch refuses to give a clear excuse, he ends up in solitary confinement as well. It turns out that at the juvenile center, Banks has his ways of sneaking in drugs, through Meekin, a level 2 inmate whose duty is to collect the trash during the visitation hour. Moreover, he sneaks in different things for other inmates. While Butch is in solitary confinement, Banks with his bully crew lures Davis with the drugs, and mess up his face with drawings before leaving him. After they left him, Davis could not even stand up by himself. When he crawls out, Goodyear notices him and takes him to the bathroom. He puts Davis in the cold shower, before giving him water to drink, and impels him to vomit, to flush out the drugs from his system. Like his other two friends, Davis ends up in solitary confinement. After about 48 hours the three boys are back in the general population. A few days pass and Butch waits for the day he can have revenge on Banks. One day when Davis was watching a TV show, Looney and Eckersley tried to pick a fight with him. He stands up angry and tries to approach Looney, while Angel quickly covers the security camera. Butch sees them and beats up Looney. He then forces the whereabouts of Banks from Eckersley. Immediately, Davis and Butch head towards the lavatory in search of Banks. On his way, Butch picks up a metal cup. Upon reaching there, Butch asks Davis to keep watch on the outside for the officers. With the cup, Butch beats Banks to a pulp, and Davis quickly retrieves his boots from the shabby bully. The beatings establish his rank among the inmates, and assume the position of top dog, the daddy of Enola Vale. This offers temporary protection to his friends, Davis and Angel. Meanwhile, Davis's mom comes to visit him. She informs him that she's planning to file a suit against the institution regarding her son being bullied, but seeing that he was under the protection of Butch, Davis has gained much confidence inside the center, and he tells his mother that he does not need her unnecessary help. After the Banks incident, Butch, Davis and Angel are living peacefully as they hang out with Max. They talk about their past experiences and crack jokes without a care in the world. However, Shadow, another powerful figure in the center, starts taking an interest in Butch. He wants to make his crew strong with Butch tagging along. But Butch, who does not like the drug circulation in the center, goes to Meekin. Since he is the one who brings things to the center for them, Butch tells him to bring things for him as well. When Meekin comes to give him his order, Butch searches him and gets his hands on Shadow's drugs as well. One day, while Butch is hanging out with his friends in the laundry room, Goodyear comes to get him and takes him to the office. There, the senior officer notifies him that some of the authorities have investigated the officer that he had previously assaulted, and found him to be guilty of physically abusing quite a number of children. Now, they assume that Butch's offense was for self-defense. Therefore, if things go well, he could be released in not more than 2 weeks. Nonetheless, that will be possible with a condition: that he does not get involved in any sort of misconduct within this period. Later during the day, one of Shadow's guys, Hamill, he attacks Beacon in the dining hall by cutting his cheek. The order is from Shadow, to serve as a warning for Butch for snatching his drugs. Since there was the use of weapons in the attack, the officers started searching the dormitories. Before this, Shadow's plan was for Butch to get caught for the possession of the drug. But to his disappointment, that did not happen. In the next setting, Butch chokes Shadow with a piece of cloth, before pushing him down and warning Shadow not to resort to cheap tricks of harming others. With these threats, he starts gaining the upper hand in the prison power game. Before leaving, he tosses Shadow pills to the floor. The following day is the birthday party of Goodyear's daughter. Despite his request to get work off for it, Sands does not grant him. Sands explains with the increasing number of assaults, he cannot let him leave being the unit supervisor. Goodyear is displeased with Sands' excuse, and on top of that, his wife keeps on calling to remind him of the party. Meanwhile, during a routine painting job, Angel draws an inappropriate figure on the wall. This angers Goodyear, and a fragile balance of everyday life is tipped by an ill-fated incident. In the altercation, Angel is thrown against a wall by Goodyear. He falls unconscious while blood is noticed from the back of his head. Sands hears the commotion, and asks Goodyear what this is all about. But he says nothing and just stands in silence. Butch, who is a witness to the altercation, lashes at Goodyear for not saying what exactly happened. Butch is placed in solitary confinement while an investigation takes place. Looney and Eckersley were waiting for an opportunity like this to get revenge. Takes advantage of Butch's absence to take their revenge on the vulnerable Davis. They corner Davis, and in retaliation, they pour their anger on him. But they don't end it with just physical assault. Looney even sexually assaulted him. After a while, Butch is released from solitary confinement and meets Davis in the dining hall. Before Davis could talk to Butch about what had happened, Butch tells him that he is going to be released soon. Davis could not bring himself to share the incident with him, since Butch has to play nice within his remaining period to be released. That night, Davis finds it hard to even fall asleep. He rings the alarm and requests the officer to let him contact his mother. Since it is still night time around 3 a.m., the officer rejects his request and tells him to make the call in the morning. Butch is desperate to call his mother for help and continues ringing the alarm. This provokes the officer and switches off the alarm. Feeling helpless and ashamed while pondering on what to do, he understands that he will also not have any protection to face the prospect of future assaults. Davis eventually takes his life by cutting his wrist and bleeding to death that very night. His body is then discovered by Goodyear the next morning while he's on his rounds. Angel, who died in hospital, and now Davis's death causes the inmates to go on a hunger strike. During the strike, while the inmates are banging on the table, Butch notices Looney being suspicious and nervous. He throws a chair on the wall, declaring the start of the splurge. Eventually, it breaks into a physical tussle between inmates and the officers. In a state of total uproar, Butch brutally attacks Looney. The officers then start beating them up to control the situation. Sands asks the officers to barricade the dining hall and then orders the special unit to be mobilized. When the situation could not be stabilized with shields and batons, they resort to using tear gas, but even that does not seem to be effective against the mob. Therefore, the officers start firing the inmates with rubber bullets. When the condition begins worsening, Max breaks down the thin wall of the kitchen. He then leads Butch towards the garbage room. He asks Max to tag along, but he refuses and returns inside. Butch makes his way to the exit door, after multiple tries to open it. Finally, the door opens and Butch exits, but behind the open doors was a stretch of wire mesh wall. In the final scene, the unplanned escape backfires when the officers catch Butch. They twist his ankle and drag him back inside the facility as he screams in pain. Marking the end of this film. Like and share your thoughts with us if you love his plot summary. Also, subscribe to help this channel grow. Until next time, have a great day.